very good evening and welcome to another edition of Primetime News on TV1. I'm Charlene Benedict for the News First team.
And I'm Mariam Gunamijaya. Before we head on to our stories in detail, here's a look at your top stories for tonight.
News First headlines. Main sponsor.
Durden's Hospital, dedicated to you.
Farmers protest opposite Agriculture Minister's residence, demanding water for their crops. Will Sri Lankan authorities resort to emergency power purchasing? Jathika Janabalavegia revealed details of a massive unsettled electricity bill.
අද වෙනකම් මේ විදුලි බිල ගෙවලා නැහැ. ඒක නිසා ජනාධිපති ඔයත් කංචන විදුලි බල ඇමතිවරයාත් මිහින්තලේ පන්සලේ විදුලිය කපලා අඳුරේ තියන්න පුළුවන් නම් දැන් මැදමුලන වලව්වේ විදුලිය කපලා අඳුරේ තියන්න ඕන.
Government will only adhere to instructions and orders of the Parliament in the debt optimization program, says President.
ආපහු ඒ පරණ දේශපාලනය ගෙනල්ලා නැති කරන්න මම ඉඩ දෙන්නේ නැහැ.
News First headlines. Main sponsor.
Durden's Hospital, dedicated to you.
Sri Lankan paddy farmers from the Vallava zone in the south of Sri Lanka gathered opposite the residence of Mahinda Amaravira, the country's agriculture minister, demanding that water be released for their paddy fields.
Sri Lankan rice farmers from the Vallava zone launched a protest march in Anganukula Palasa in Hambantota. The protest campaign was led by the collective of Mahaweli State Agricultural Associations and the Orsalon Agrarian Federation. They demanded that measures be taken to release water from the Samanala Vava to the Udavallawe Reservoir and their rice fields be protected. When the protest march reached the residence of Mahinda Amaravira, the country's agriculture minister, Sri Lanka police obstructed them, citing that the minister was not at home.
අපි අමරවීරගේ ගෙදරට යනකොට අමරවීර හැංගිලා මහින්ද අමරවීර හැංගිලා කුසියමතියට අපි කියනවා හැංගුණාට ඔබ එන්න ඕන ගමට.
The protesting farmers dispersed following a meeting on the street.
ඔයා කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයට ගිහිල්ලා වතුර නොදෙන තැනට අත උස්සලා බිමට අවිල්ලා ඔයා එක එක බයිලා ගන්නවා.
There is no peace at home as we are worried about settling our debts. The minister was elected from our votes. Why is he doing this to us?
More than 40% of the cultivated land was destroyed and these rulers have not been able to give us a proper answer.
Farmers from the Vallava zone also protested in the Ambalipitia town.
Give water to the farmers. All the paddy fields are left empty at this moment. We have water left only for 2 to 3 days. Please step in to save our farmlands. Release the water from the Samanala Vava.
Friday also marked 12 days since rice farmers launched a Satyagraha campaign in the Ambalipitia town.
We have been here for many days. These are the farmers who supply rice to the country. Now the rulers have to be taught how to treat these farmers. Nothing like this has happened in this entire world. Look at how the ministers we appointed from our votes are treating us now. If they are sensitive about how the farmers suffer, they should release the water from the Samanala Vava at this very moment.
The National Water Management Secretariat pointed out that even if water is released from the Samanala Vava, it's now too late. The director of the National Water Management Secretariat elaborated during the Mawatha Professional Discussion Programme.
It
has reached a level where it is too late. After a cultivation turns bad, there is no recovery. If it is an electricity issue, it can be restored within a day. However, that is not the case with cultivation. If the crops die, that is it. The decision was reached too late.
Too late.
However, farmers are requesting that a certain amount of water that will be sufficient to save the crops be released. These are farmers who depend on the water from the Udavalava reservoir to nurture their crops.
The minister does not understand humanity. We have a president and we wonder if he is sleeping. Does he not understand the woes of the people? Water should be released right now. They do not even care if the people die of hunger as long as their plans are achieved. The ministers are quarrelling. What is the point of having electricity if we have nothing to eat? The Mahavali wants us to cultivate and promised us water for the cultivation as well. One minister said that people in Polonnaruwa only consume manioc. We cannot survive like that. We cultivated our lands after pawning what we own. Now we are forced to read the letters from the banks and suffer.
Over 25,000 hectares of rice fields in the Monaragala, Ambilipitiya and Ratnapura districts receive water from the Udavalava reservoir via two waterways, namely the Valava left and right bank canals. More than 30,000 families directly depend on the water from the Udavalava reservoir. However, the Ceylon Electricity Board refused to release water from the Samanala for agriculture, noting that by doing so it would lose 120 megawatts in electricity, leading to an electricity crisis in the southern province. The present situation is such that water will likely be unavailable for cultivation and the generation of electricity. How can there be an electricity crisis in the south of Sri Lanka when there is sufficient generation in the national grid and authorities have assured there will be no more power cuts? The Ceylon Electricity Board Engineers Union elaborated during the Mawatha Professional Discussion Programme.
The Samanala plant is the power plant that generates electricity for the southern province. There was a diesel power plant in Ambilipitiya. However, it was removed from the grid as the agreement period expired.
agreement period transmission line.
There is a transmission line via Balangoda. It has reached maximum capacity. It can carry around 70 to 80 megawatts maximum. There was a project that was to be completed by the end of the year. However, due to a legal battle, it remains stalled. That is the transmission line from Polpitiya to Hambantota. A unit produced by hydropower plants is around 3 rupees to 4 rupees, which is the average price. If we go for emergency purchasing, it would have to be diesel. The power plants in Hambantota would range from 80 rupees to 85 rupees. Emergency purchasing means an extra cost.
The Minister of Irrigation, speaking to reporters, recently said that water needs to be released for the farmers from the Samanala, even by sourcing a floating power plant. However, the issue is that it would be nearly impossible to save the rice fields even if water is released. The country's Met Department has forecast that there would be insufficient rainfall until October this year, and according to that forecast, it would be impossible to continue to provide electricity to the southern province by generating power from the Samanala. In order to prevent a crisis, electricity will have to be purchased from a private power plant in Ambilipitiya, or as the Irrigation Minister said, from a floating power plant. A letter from the Ceylon Electricity Board to the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka dated the 21st of July noted that the CEB would incur loss of 33 billion rupees in 2023 based on the electricity tariff reduction that was imposed. The CEB proposed for an immediate tariff hike to cover the losses. Be that as it may, if electricity has to be purchased from the private sector at a higher cost in order to supply electricity to the southern province, that burden will also fall on the laurels of the people.
දරුවන්ට ඉගෙන ගන්න රැට ලයිට් දෙන්න බැහැ කියලා කිව්වා.
They refused to provide electricity for the children's education and days later decided on a tariff hike. Afterwards, they said it would be difficult, but there would be no power cuts. Now, they are highlighting the situation in the Samanala River and saying that if water is released, 3 to 4 hour power cuts will be imposed. The drought has come as a blessing for the government to sell all the coffins it has. They are using their henchmen as experts in the CEB to justify the emergency power purchases. A crisis is a gold mine for these rulers.
මේ කට්ටියම එකතු වෙලා මේ ගහන ගේම් එකක් මේක.
They are trying to purchase 500 megawatts via emergency purchasing. If electricity is the issue, why don't they just take over Ace Ambilipitia? There is a cabinet decision from 2016. It is an illegal power plant and it was not taken over. Since then, they have been plotting to bring the barge-mounted plant from Turkey.
රජයට පවර ගන්නෙත් නැහැ. එදා ඉඳලා කරගෙන ආපු මේ තුර්කි බාත් වගේ බත්ත.
Reports have surfaced over attempts to reach a new deal with regard to electricity generation via liquefied natural gas. Do you recall the midnight agreement that was signed on the 17th of September 2021 with New Fortress Energy, a US-based energy infrastructure company? According to the agreement signed in 2021, the Treasury's 40% stake in the Yugadanavi power station in Keravalapitia would be transferred to New Fortress Energy. The agreement also included the use of a new power plant named Sobadanavi, as well as the supply of liquefied natural gas. However, so far this agreement has not been executed, and the CEB Engineers Union stressed that the authorities are now looking at an Indian firm to execute the project.
Another company has replaced New Fortress Energy, and the same process was followed. It means they would install the FSRO and buoy as well as the LNG systems. We are made to understand that Petronet LNG Limited from India has made an approach with the Indian government's blessing. It is reported that on the 31st of July, a cabinet paper was placed to cancel the system and provide the contract in an unsolicited manner to this new company. If cabinet approval is given, they would work to allow this Indian company to enter Sri Lanka. If cabinet is cancelling the contract and awarding it to another company, that alone is an issue. India is not a LNG producing country. Australia, Oman, South Africa and Russia are countries that produce LNG.
LNG නිසාරණය කරන රටවල් තියෙනවා ඕස්ට්‍රේලියාව, ඔමානය, දකුණු අප්‍රිකාව, රුසියාව ඔය වගේ ලොකු රටවල් වලින් තමයි මේ රටවල් ගොඩක් තියෙනවා ලෝකේ.
Executive member of the Jathika Jana Balawege, Nalin Hevage, disclosed about the unsettled electricity tariffs while speaking at a media briefing in Galle on Friday.
මේ විදුලි බිල වැඩි කරන්න හේතු වෙලා තියෙන්නේ මේ විදුලි බල මණ්ඩලය පාඩු ලබනවා කියලා. ඇයි විදුලි බල මණ්ඩලය පාඩු ලබන්නේ?
The reason behind increasing the electricity tariff is because the Ceylon Electricity Board is making losses. Why is the Electricity Board making losses? During the past weeks, we noticed that Minister Kanchana Vijayasekara was stressing that it is impossible to maintain the electricity tariffs as it is. But he also mentioned that there is an unsettled balance of 30,000 million rupees by the ministers, and he will not be disclosing the relevant names. So President Ranil Wickremesinghe and Minister Kanchana, here is an unsettled bill. This is the bill for Namal Rajapaksa's wedding in 2019. I secured this from the CEB through the Right to Information Act. The request was made on the 26th of July and I received a response. It states that former President Mahinda Rajapaksa would be attending an event at the Veerakatiya residence from 12th September 2019 to the 15th of September 2019, and security lights needed to be in place. Accordingly, electricity was provided temporarily, and afterwards the security lights were removed. It states that the request for security lights and generators cost 2.6 million rupees, 82,246 rupees and 57 cents, and therefore make the payment. However, the payment has not been made to date. It was during that period that Namal Rajapaksa tied the knot. They have not settled this electricity bill to date. Therefore, if the President and Minister Kanchana can cut off the electricity supply to the Mihintale temple, they can keep the Madhamulanavalawa also in darkness. The Madhamulanavalawa is not superior to the Mihintale temple. We will monitor the conduct of Minister Kanchana. We were told that Kanchana is straightforward. However, he is suspending the power supply to the poor. What will be done about the electricity bill of Namal Rajapaksa? It's been 4 years and there can be only one law in the country. Therefore, we cannot have separate laws for the Madhamulanavalawa, Mihintale temple and the common man.
The chief incumbent of the Mihintale Rajamahavihara, Venerable Dr. Valavahangunabeve Dhammaratana Thero, made the following remarks over the disconnection of electricity supply to the temple premises.
We don't have water for consumption now. When the electricity is cut off, the water supply is blocked automatically. We do not need electricity tariffs from the government. Many discussions are underway to install a solar power plant covering the Mihintale sacred site within the next 1.5 months. I'm not engaging in politics. There must be an alternative. We have to find an alternative. Let's see what happens.
Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa in a statement said that the electricity bill of the Mihintale Rajamahavihara, which was 4.1 million rupees, was settled with the donations of the members of the Samagi Janabala Vegia.
A protest was held in Nugegoda on Friday against the increase in water tariffs. The protest was organized by the Youth for Change organization. The demonstrators signed a banner that was set up as a mark of their protest.
In the meantime, large crowds were seen in queues near State Bank branches on Friday as well to open bank accounts required for the Aswasama Social Welfare Benefit Program. For the fifth consecutive day, people were lining up in Ukualai to open bank accounts required for the Aswasama Social Welfare Program.
They asked us to come during the weekend, but banks are closed. We came today as well. The previous token is no longer valid. We have to stay in the queue once again.
We came to get the token. Only 50 tokens are issued. It's been 3 days now.
This is how people gathered to open bank accounts in the state banks in Valachene, Batiklo.
We came from afar. It cost us 1,500 rupees for the three-wheeler. It's a waste.
The people who were in queues in Navalapitiya town were also inconvenienced.
They said that the ID is not clear and asked me to go to the studio and take a photo, get it verified and bring it. Even after doing so, they're still not accepting it.
We are heart patients and we cannot stand in these queues. Do justice to us. Make arrangements for us to open bank accounts to receive this money.
And some tragic news today. 5 people died in a fatal car accident in Erlegama, Tabuttegama this morning.
A tragic motor accident took place at 12:10 a.m. on Friday morning. Sri Lanka police said a lorry heading to Anuradhapura had made a move to the side of the road to park, and at that time a van crashed onto the rear of the lorry. The injured were immediately rushed to the Tabuttegama hospital by the locals. I just fell asleep. There was a loud sound like a tire blowing up. After that, when I heard the sound of the little baby, I saw that the van had crashed. They had to break into the van to rescue the people. It took a long time. Police said 8 members of the same family were travelling in the van at the time of the accident. 2 men and 2 women died upon being admitted to hospital. The deceased were identified as 36, 43 and 46-year-old members of the same family residing in Kahatagasdegiliya, Anuradhapura. The police said that they met with the accident while returning from collecting passports.
My brother, his wife and another 2 relatives of mine died in the incident. They met with this accident while returning from the passport office.
Another person who was receiving treatment at the Anuradhapura Teaching Hospital succumbed to his injuries on Friday afternoon. A 3-year-old boy is currently being treated in the intensive care unit of the Anuradhapura Teaching Hospital, and 2 other children are being treated at the Thambuthegama Hospital. The police said that preliminary investigations revealed that the accident occurred due to the driver of the van driving at high speed. The driver of the lorry was arrested in connection with the incident.
We now cross over to a short commercial break.
Stay with News First. We will be right back.
News First. Main sponsor.
Durden's Hospital, dedicated to you.
The organisation to protect the lands of the Mahawali H zone protested opposite the Thambuthegama Mahawali Authority office on Friday.
The organisation to protect the lands of the Mahawali H zone alleges that the Mahawali Authority had arbitrarily prepared 264 plots of lands of 10 purchase each within the Thambuthegama city limits and had provided these lands to various individuals through political intervention. Movement along the Anuradhapura-Kurunegala main road came to a complete standstill for almost an hour, and motorists were forced to use alternate routes. The protesters then made an attempt to enter the office of the resident project manager of the Thambuthegama Mahawali Authority office. The security officers opened the gates and the crowd flooded the premises. Sri Lanka police then took measures to prevent them from entering the office of the resident project manager. Thereafter, Sri Lanka police permitted 6 people to enter the office of the resident project manager for talks. Following the discussion, the protesters said that the resident project manager had proposed solution to the issue.
It was decided that the documents will be perused within the week and the flaws will be looked into. He said he will suspend any operation on those lands by those who had obtained them.
Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe on Friday said that a program to modernize state land is being implemented.
The government has already initiated an agriculture modernization program with the aim of creating a highly competitive economy through agriculture. To achieve this, we must also focus on advancing the coconut industry. Relying solely on price control will not lead to successful business development. Instead, the key lies in boosting production and enhancing the value of coconuts. Investments, be it local or international, should be encouraged in the coconut industry. Therefore, we need to bring in the investors.
These statements were made during the 29th annual meeting of the Coconut Growers Association held at the Sri Lanka Foundation Institute. President Ranil Wickremesinghe stressed the government's financial accountability to Parliament, making it clear that they will only adhere to the instructions and orders of the Parliament in the debt optimization program.
The control of public finances lies with the President, and this program has already been approved by it. The Parliament, being the custodian of the sovereign power of the people under Article 4 of the Constitution, exercises all the necessary powers. The government operates within the framework set by the laws of the Parliament, and decisions can only be changed or continued with the Parliament's notification. That power lies with the Parliament. We will only adhere to the instructions and orders of the Parliament. Therefore, I request the smaller parties not to create unnecessary issues.
The fundamental rights application filed by the JVP over the impact that the debt optimization program has over the EPF and ETF was taken up for consideration today.
Submissions were made over the fact that the government is going to make a decision on this matter on the 11th of this month. Attorneys representing the respondents said that it is personally not a decisive day. However, the bench was of the opinion that the respondents' view should be obtained to reach a final decision in this regard. The respondents were asked to file objections on the 8th. They also told us to file counter objections on the 9th, if any. On the 10th, we have to confirm the facts related to this matter because it was emphasized that the court cannot give a date after the 11th.
Against a backdrop where allegations have been levelled against parliamentarian Namal Rajapaksa over the failure to settle electricity tariffs, Parliamentarian Namal Rajapaksa's office has questioned the Ceylon Electricity Board with regard to these allegations that the MP had not paid a bill amounting to approximately 2.7 million rupees in 2019.
Member of Parliament Namal Rajapaksa's office has officially questioned the Ceylon Electricity Board with regard to allegations on social media that the MP had not paid a bill of approximately 2.7 million rupees dating back to September 2019. Rajapaksa's coordinating secretary Sanjeeva Vijayaratna has sent a letter dated today, August 4th, to the chairman of the CEB requesting details of the bill that was allegedly issued. He has requested details such as the name, date and address to which the bill was sent.
Chairman of Litrogas Mudita Peiris says that there will be no revisions on Litrogas prices. He made this announcement during a media briefing in Colombo.
We are holding this press conference at a time when the price of 1 metric ton of gas has increased by more than $85 in the global market. According to the price formula we have been provided, prices should be hiked by around 470 rupees. But we would like to inform our consumers that although the price of gas has increased in the global market, Litrogas will not hike the prices of domestic gas cylinders. We made this decision by taking into account the burden on the people. Therefore, as an institution, we are able to easily bear this burden and provide relief to the people.
Crisis-hit Sri Lanka has emerged as a key country of interest for India and the United Kingdom as they set out to operationalize a global innovation partnership that allows them to cooperate in development projects in third countries.
The India-UK Global Innovation Partnership, which is expected to focus on climate-smart innovations, is expected to come out with a list of priority countries and sectors next year. The two countries have had early-stage talks about cooperation in Sri Lanka's power and energy sector. India has initiated a number of bilateral projects to bolster Sri Lanka's energy security, including a multi-product petroleum pipeline and linking the power grids of both countries. As Colombo recovers from its economic crisis, joint investment in energy security by India and the UK may prove helpful. The much-delayed Trincomalee oil tank farm also saw movement, a project that could prove important to India's efforts to build up energy reserves while also allowing Sri Lanka to improve its energy security. Both sides signed a memorandum of understanding on cooperation in the field of renewable energy. Progress was also made on the 135 megawatt Sampur solar power project.
In the meantime, Sri Lanka sought to calm investors over volatility in its currency after the rupee fell the most in Asia last month, with the central bank officials saying there isn't significant pressure from current account flows in the near term.
Bloomberg reports that the moves in the rupee are due to speculation and banks covering open positions linked to the exchange of defaulted dollar debt for new local bonds. PKG Haris Chandra, Central Bank's Director of Economic Research, was quoted as saying that in the second half of 2023, Sri Lanka will see a lot of inflows under the IMF program. Sri Lanka's rupee tumbled more than 5% in July to become Asia's worst performing currency from being the best in the first half of the year. The nation is pushing ahead with debt restructuring and said last week that about $791 million of Sri Lanka development bonds, which are dollar-denominated bonds mainly held by domestic banks, had agreed to swap the debt. The South Asian nation secured a $3 billion IMF bailout in March, with the lender disbursing the amount in stages. The central bank does not target a specific rate under a flexible exchange rate policy and allows the currency to move. The rupee has recovered this week and is set for a gain of more than 3%, its steepest weekly advance since March.
The 261st annual feast of St. Anne's Shrine in Thalavila will take place on Sunday, the 6th of August. News first, Melissa Handapangoda brings us the details of the preparations for this event.
The feast of St. Anne's Shrine in Thalavila, the oldest Catholic shrine in Sri Lanka, is happening right now in the church premises. Many people, Catholics as well as people from all religions, are gathered here today in this premises to celebrate the feast of St. Anne's.
Lead us, Mother.
South Korean authorities on Friday pledged more water trucks, air-conditioned spaces and medics for tens of thousands of scouts suffering from a heat wave at the World Scout Jamboree, which began on Tuesday.
Temperatures have hit 34 degrees Celsius in Saemangam, the area of reclaimed land near the city of Baon in South Korea's west coast, where 39,000 participants, mostly scouts aged 14 to 18, are camping. At least 600 have been treated for heat-related ailments. Scouts from Britain, the largest continent, said on Friday that they were moving to hotels in the capital, Seoul, for the rest of their stay, hoping to alleviate the pressure on the site. Sri Lankan stall at the 25th World Scouts Jamboree was opened yesterday. It was declared open by the director of the Scouts Association for the Asia-Pacific region, Prasanna Srivastava. Many scouts from across the world had attended this event. Sri Lankan products were showcased at the stall and attendees were given an opportunity to taste Sri Lankan sweetmeats and tea.
I must say that we had problems with putting this exhibition together, financial constraints, various planning problems, but there was a young group of scouts, teenagers who got together and with the help of some experienced commissioners put together this exhibition, Sri Lankan exhibition, which is going on for 8 days, and we are promoting Sri Lanka as a tourist venture. We have traditional Sri Lankan sweets being distributed free here, and also we are promoting Sri Lankan tea. So I hope that this becomes a platform for more tourists to arrive in Sri Lanka.
Day 2 of the second leg of the LOLC Divi Savia program got underway on Friday, centering the Gampaha district.
In the first leg of the LOLC Divisavya program, school books and stationery items were provided to 1,387 schools with less than 50 students. The second leg of the LOLC Divisavya program will provide school books and stationery items to 1,508 schools with less than 100 students. Students will be provided school books and stationery for a period of 1 year under the program. This Worth initiative is a collaboration between the LOLC group and the Ministry of Education. Students from the Baranja Tilaka Primary School in Gampaha, Bandaranayakapura Primary School, Indolamulla Primary Vidyalaya, Mahinda Primary Vidyalaya and CNA Model Primary Vidyalaya, among others, were gifted school books and stationery items. Another Divisavya team distributed school books and stationery items to the students of the Moragoda Vimaladharma Surya Primary Vidyalaya, Indigola Vijita Primary Vidyalaya, Kalagedi Hena Sri Valagamba Primary Vidyalaya and Nikahatikanda Primary Vidyalaya. Several more school students were provided with school books and stationery items at the Minuangoda Zonal Education Office. The LOLC Divisavya program will continue to create a bright future for the country's student population.
Saturday, the 5th of August, will be a very important day for the Kudabellanvala villagers in Anuradhapura, as Gammadda will commence work to set up a clean drinking water project for the residents there.
The Kuda Bellankadavala village in remote Anuradhapura can be classified as a village with the least facilities in Sri Lanka. The village is home to around 120 families and practically all of them depend on agriculture to survive. Though the village is rich in many water sources, access to clean drinking water is a challenge. Therefore, many villagers are compelled to travel for miles in search of clean drinking water, while those who consumed brackish water fell victim to the chronic kidney disease. During the 2022 Gam at the Door-to-Door program, the issues of the Kuda Bellankadavala village in Anuradhapura was identified. Accordingly, measures were taken to address the issue, and on Saturday, work on the new clean drinking water project will be launched. The project will be carried out under the supervision of Ministry of Health and with the technical assistance of the Sri Lanka Navy. This project was given life by a donor that is close to Gammadda. It is the aspiration of Gammadda that the woes of these people who had to suffer in search of clean water would come to an end.
In news from neighbouring India, the Supreme Court of the country on Friday suspended opposition Congress party leader Rahul Gandhi's conviction in a defamation case, an order that will allow him to return to Parliament and contest national elections due next year.
Gandhi was convicted in March in a case brought by a lawmaker from the western state of Gujarat belonging to the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party over comments he made in 2019 deemed insulting to Prime Minister Narendra Modi and other people surnamed Modi, including the lawmaker. Gandhi, son of a dynasty that has given India 3 prime ministers, was sentenced to 2 years imprisonment, but the jail term was put on hold and he was granted bail. He also lost his parliamentary seat following the conviction, since lawmakers sentenced to jail terms of 2 years or more are automatically disqualified. Lower courts and the High Court in Gujarat had rejected appeals by Gandhi to suspend the conviction, causing him to appeal to the Supreme Court.
Niger's military junta says it is severing military agreements with France, its former colonial ruler, firing some of the previous government's key ambassadors.
Niger's military junta issued a warning to citizens of the West African nation to watch for foreign armies and spies. With 2 days remaining before deadline set by the West African regional bloc to release and reinstate President Mohamed Bazoum or face possible foes, Bazoum, in a plea published in a Washington Post opinion piece, said, quote, "I write this as a hostage," unquote, and urged the US and partners to help. Niger's mutinous soldiers face a Sunday deadline set by the regional bloc known as ECOWAS, whose envoys arrived on Thursday for talks. But those discussions quickly stalled, with the delegation unable to meet the coup leader, General Abdurrahmane Tiani. The European Union on Friday strongly condemned the blocking of French media broadcasts in Niger, where last week's coup sparked protests against the country's former colonial ruler. Niger's newly installed junta said it would respond immediately to any aggression or attempted aggression against it by the West African countries, days before the expiry of an ultimatum to restore order given by regional bloc ECOWAS. Niger's elected president Mohamed Bazoum has been held by the military since the 26th of July, in the third coup in as many years to topple an elected leader in the Sahel. The head of Niger's powerful presidential guard, General Abdurrahmane Tiani, has declared himself the country's new leader.
Drawing your attention back to some news from here at home, the press conference of the Colombo International Theatre Festival 2023 took place in Colombo on Thursday. News First, Sirasa TV and TV1 are the proud electronic media partners of the event.
The Colombo International Theatre Festival has initiated the first ever and only international theatre festival in the history of Sri Lankan theatre arena as a bridge connected between Sri Lanka and global theatre. The 9th edition of Colombo International Theatre Festival will kick off from the 25th of August at Elphinstone Theatre in Colombo.
Sri Lanka is known internationally for bankruptcy. But there is one thing you didn't know. That was, for 10 years, Sri Lanka was known for a theatre festival. Starting from 2012, it was a major event in the international calendar of global significance. That was the Colombo International Theatre Festival.
This year, the Colombo International Theatre Festival will see the participation of countries like India, Bangladesh, Poland, Spain, Ukraine, Romania and Tunisia taking part. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the economic crisis in Sri Lanka, the festival didn't make it to stage after 2019. However, this year they are returning.
An exhibition match was held on Friday in line with the Jaffna Premier League.
A friendly match was held between the Sri Lanka Army football team and the Northern Province football team. The match was held at Dorayappa Stadium in Jaffna. Sri Lanka Army scored a goal during the first half of the match. However, the Northern Province football team scored 3 goals during the second half, claiming victory 3-1. The finals of the Jaffna Premier League will be held on Sunday.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News on TV1 for tonight.
Thank you very much for watching.
Good night.